Coach Chad here for Coach's Tip. Today we are going to focus on the overhead, the strict, or what I like to call the classic press. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go over only 3 elements of this movement. We are going to talk about front rack positioning, grip or hand positioning, which is part of front rack, and then gear and equipment setup. These are probably, in my opinion, the 3 biggest misunderstood aspects of the press and the 3 things that are holding you back on getting more weight overhead. So let's start breaking these down. The first one is going to be gear and equipment setup. When you're setting up the barbell, first off, always make sure the barbell is in the center of the rack. Might seem like an obvious point, but same time, many times people walk in the bar being crooked. So let's make sure the bar is in the center of the rack. After that, what you're going to want to make sure is the barbell is the correct height. Now, sometimes in group class, that's difficult because you're lifting with other people. But if you have the option, you want to set the barbell up in the rack so that when you pick the barbell out, you're only rising the bar somewhere between 1 and 2 inches total. You do not want to squat the barbell. So when setting up, you're usually setting the bar up somewhere around collarbone height. Now, the more important stuff after that is going to be grip and front rack. So let's just jump to front rack real quick and talk about the basic points of performance of this position. What we want to see, and I'll use my trusty PVC pipe here, is that what we want to see from a front angle is that we want to see our elbow is directly below our wrist. So our forearm is vertical, perpendicular to the floor. From a lateral view, what we want to see is that the elbow is slightly in front of the wrist. Now, when you hold a barbell and you can see this position here, that makes sense. Now, a lot of people grip the bar and they put it there. Now, you can see the strain or the extra work the shoulder and the rotator cuff have to do to support that load. You want to make sure that gravity's force coming down, big old mean Mr. Gravity, is actually assisting our position and not fighting it. So we don't want to fight gravity. We want to make sure it's to our advantage in this way. So we want to make sure our elbow is in front of the wrist. Now next, we're going to get a little bit more into this in our grip positioning, but we don't want the wrist stacked. There's a big misunderstanding for a lot of people is that they grip the bar like this. And you can see from a side angle, at least I hope you can see, that when I grip the bar with a neutral grip, that bar's center mass is forward on my front rack and it's kind of sitting over top of my thumb. What you want to do is cock the wrist back just ever so slightly so the barbell is just on the back aspect of your wrist, okay? So that's going to be very important for proper pressing position is to have the wrist cocked back ever so slightly. Now, the most important and probably the primary stuff we have to focus on is going to be actually how do we grip a barbell in the press. So I'm going to use this barbell here, of course. Now, we're going to first start talking about width. Now, width of grip depends on the individual's flexibility, limb lengths, all that. So you are going to have to play around a little bit, trying to find what the ideal position for this is for you. For me, it's about 1 thumb width from the edge of the knurling on a male bar. Now, when I walk up to the barbell, what I always do is I create what I call my diamond, okay? So I put my thumb and my index finger together. This creates that little diamond shape or whatever you want to call that. Now, when you grab that, you'll note that your hands are angled in. This is going to be imperative to setting up that rack position, but also bar in hand. So when you're placing your hand on the bar should be across the base of your palm or mid palm, not in your calluses or up or above your calluses or in your fingers. This is going to be a major deficit to performance in your press. So keep the bar lower in your palm, all right? So we walk up, diamond grip, slide our grip out, 1 thumb width for me. I grip the bar tightly, allowing my wrist to roll back. Now, as I get this grip, I want to pull the bar and stand out without losing the barbell in my grip. So I grab it, set the position, walk out. I do not allow the bar to fall. I maintain my grip. And as we're maintaining that grip, we create what's also termed the radiation effect. So when you grip your hand, you also feel that tension coming through your forearm, your upper arm, and into your shoulder, almost right up into your neck. So it radiates up the body, securing the elbow joint, the wrist joint as well, and most importantly, the shoulder joint, all right? So we're keeping that scapula and that shoulder joint properly tensed, which we're going to use through muscular tension. So grip the bar, but again, not in that neutral grip. Now, we're going to pull that bar out one more time. Place it here. You'll notice, for me, based on my flexibility, my body positions or limb lengths, that barbell's not touching my collarbone or my front rack or my shoulder position. So here, this is front rack for me. Now for some people it will be here, but you note that as I drop the bar down, my elbows cave, I lose all those basic points of performance of our front rack. Now for some people, if this was a standardized test or some kind of a pressing competition, they might argue against that we need standards, the barbells touching your collarbone or your shoulder at the start. I understand that. But if we're talking about performance in the gym and just developing strength, I want the best biomechanical position for you to be able to press the most weight overhead. And that's what this is going to be. And again, like I said earlier, it's going to depend on the individual as to where the barbell will lie. So for me, it's about mid-neck, just underneath my chin. But again, let's review. Wrist above the elbow or elbow below the wrist from the front view. From the side view, elbow in front of the wrist, bar in mid to base of palm with wrist slightly cocked back. That's our position. Now we want to keep that barbell as close to our body as possible because we have to understand that I always use the example, if you were holding 5 pounds, where is it heavier, here or here? And of course, due to leverage, it's going to feel heavier out here even though it's still 5 pounds. So you want to keep that bar as close to your body as possible, and you're going to do that with a slight lean back of your torso. When I say slight, I mean it. And then in a later video, we're going to talk about how we initiate a press for ideal performance. And again, this is going to really iterate the classic press model that I teach, okay? So that's going to come in a later video, but I hope that these 3 basic points of how you take a barbell from the rack into starting position for a press are useful to you. And these are going to start to help you and allow you to press more weight over your head.